I want to move on to immigration. There are a lot of things that you just said that I think aren't totally fact-based. So they say that they're for free speech, but there are a lot of things that we know are not happening. I want to ask about immigration.
People came together.
Well,
all
maybe.
Because of the attacks on the First Amendment, on free. This is something our committee spent a bunch of time. We understand that there was censorship. We pointed that out.
Let's turn to immigration. Top Trump advisor Stephen Miller says that mass deportations of undocumented immigrants will begin as soon as Donald Trump takes office. I want to play this out for the American people so that they understand what exactly is going to happen. First of all, he takes office. Who's targeted first?
Well, he's already said that. People who have migrants here who committed crimes, criminal.
How are you going to find them?
The ones who committed crimes, you go after them. We've had.
But I mean,
Ms.
like who actually?
Whose daughter was killed. We've had Rachel Morin's family who came in and talked.
How are they going to be found? Or is it going to be the military? Is it going to be local law enforcement? 1.3
million migrants have already had their asylum case adjudicated, been in front of a judge, and the judge says you do not qualify under the law. We're the party of the rule of law. Those 1.3 million, they don't qualify under the law.
My question is how you get them.
They're supposed to be removed. They have a removal order. You start there. You start with the criminals. You start with the people who've already been.
I want to understand. So people say, like, let's say one of these people is living in their apartment complex. Is the military going to come in? Is it the local law enforcement? How is it actually physically going to work?
The Trump administration, the Department of Homeland Security will work with local law enforcement, and we'll focus on the people who 1.3 million already been in front of a judge and said, no, you're not entitled to stay here. You have to be removed. There's an order there, a court of law. They've had their due process. They've had the whole process play out.
So let's move on beyond that population, non-criminals, people who are in the country who are not legal citizens, those who have not committed crimes.
We're starting with the criminal element.
I know, but after that.
1.3. Well, we'll start there and then go from that point. But again, this was clear in the election. This was one of the top issues. President Trump had the greatest political comeback in history. Won 30 states, won all 7 swing states, won the popular vote, won an electoral college landslide. This was one of the big issues. He's told the American people he's going to do it.
I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm asking how it's going to work.
This is how I believe it'll start. And remember, they told him in his first term, he couldn't do certain things. He got them done. I'm convinced he'll get it done, but I also am convinced he's going to start with the criminal element and the 1.3 million who've already been in front of a judge, and the judge says you have to be removed.
Ultimately, will it be 15 to 20 million as he promised on the campaign trail?
We will see. What I know is if you send that message, I think that is so good for securing our border, which the country wants. Just the opposite of what the Biden administration did. Biden and Harris administration came in on day one and said, no more building the wall, no more remain in Mexico, and when you get here, you will not be detained, you will be released, and 10 million came in. So the country rightly said, let's put a stop to that, and the place to begin is with the criminal element and the 1.3 million who've already been adjudicated.
So the last question I want to ask about this are the dreamers. There are an estimated 3.6 million people who were brought into this country illegally by their parents. They were too young to know the difference. Many of them know no other home but the United States. Do you believe that ultimately they too should be removed?
Again, President Trump's going to start where I said. If you're talking about kids, you're talking about young people, the real question is the 200 and some thousand that the Biden-Harris administration allowed in and don't know where these kids are.
My question is about the dreamers.
That's the real question. No. The American people spoke clearly on this.
Congressman, that's a separate issue. I'm asking about the dreamers because there are a lot of people who know no other home but the United States. Should they ultimately be taken across the border?
The country wants the law enforced. We'll start with where we started, and then that question will be addressed later on, I believe. But right now we need to start with the criminal element and the 1.3 million.
Okay, let's